This push for the Indigenous voice, man, it's gathering steam. Last week, of course, we saw the machinery legislation, so not the actual question, but all the nuts and bolts, if I can call it that, come into the parliament. Not passed, just introduced. And of course, so we had Linda Burney, the Indigenous Minister, say they will not, the government, fund a yes or a no campaign. Instead, though, there's $200 million of your money on the table for a whole lot of other things. They're calling it community education to counter what will be misinformation about the voice vote. Here was Linda Burney last week.
We will be using public funds to fund a civics campaign so people know about what referendums are, people understand what the Constitution is about. We will not be using public funds to fund a yes or a no campaign. We believe those campaigns can raise their own money.
Well, clear as mud about what that $200 million is going to do. Someone will help us pull it all apart. Northern Territory CLP Senator Jacinta Price, who joins me now. I'll get into the ranker, Jacinta, directed towards you, but you've been a good study on the numbers here. $235 million is the exact amount. Some's contingency reserve, some is specified funding, but there's a big quantum of money there. Are you confident this is going to be used fairly, or are you, like me, fearing it's going to be used to basically backdoor the argument for the yes vote and basically do everything they can to cancel the no vote?
That's exactly what this money is being used for. We have organisations like the NIAA that are already pretty much pushing the constitutional change, the yes vote. We have, it's being pushed upon the public service. People in the public service are being pushed toward voting yes for constitutional change. The statement from the heart is being weaponised and used as emotional blackmail to get people on board with the yes vote. Their campaign has been underway for some time already. So, of course, they don't need to fund a yes and a no vote because they've already got their yes campaign bankrolled. And as many times you will hear the minister herself talk about and her assistant minister Melinda McCarthy talk about the corporations and the organisations that have signed up and that have come on board, big corporates that are signing on to the Uluru Statement without really, truly knowing what it all means and what those consequences might look like for our marginalised. This is a top-down approach. This is not about a grassroots movement for people on the ground. If this is what they're trying to sell, that's certainly not the case at all. And given that, there's already millions of dollars being poured into what their claim is going to be about educating Australians, it's nonsense. It's all about funding the yes campaign in other ways and letting the no campaign sort of fend for itself and rely on the generosity of the Australian people to get behind.
We've got $235 million already in the bank there for the government to spend as it sees fit. We know in this machinery legislation introduced last week that the AEC, the Electoral Commission, will no longer send out the yes and the no case as they have in previous referenda. We also know too, going back to the Republic one in 1999, $7.5 million public money was given to the yes campaign, $7.5 million to the no campaign. But importantly, then a prohibition that could be no other fundraising, no big corporates, no Simon Holmes à Court types wanting to influence the decision. That's all that was there to inform Australians to then make up their own mind. You are going to have a situation, and I know corporates have already had their meetings, they will spend tens of millions of dollars on this yes case. They've all got tax deductibility. There's no level playing field, Jacinta.
Absolutely not. And there's also the entity Indigenous Australians for Constitutional Recognition, which had previously been knocked back by the ACNC in 2021 for DGR status, so they could obviously take donations and offer those tax deductions to those donors. They were previously knocked back in 2021. They were going to take the ACNC to court over that matter, but withdrew. This government has, under their own discretion, provided them with DGR status. It's everything. They're putting everything together in favour of the Yes campaign. This is not. If this legislation passes, and if the legislation to then carry out a referendum passes, this will not be a fair referendum. And again, I'll make it very clear: this is a top-down approach. This is a
who have largely been part of the Aboriginal industry, the elites of this industry, who have been there responsible for the last 3 or so decades or more, who have been responsible to close the gap. The coalition of peaks and the land councils and the 1,100 other organisations that are funded through the Indigenous Advancement Strategy, all responsible for improving the lives of marginalised Aboriginal Australians who are now pushing for the Yes campaign and have the funding for that to do so, to move forward with that.
I just quickly got to ask you about the personal vitriol coming your way. I think we talk about it on this program and other programs because we've got to call it out. We talked about Noel Pearson last week. You've had more today from Marsha Langton. I'll play that in a moment. There's been a tweet from Paul Bongiorno, the journalist, who says that you're a lonely, sad Indigenous voice, part of a tiny, pathetic minority. On and on and on it goes. Ugly racists use and hide behind her, meaning you, Jacinta Price. But let's play what Aboriginal leader Marsha Langton had to say on ABC Radio today.
The Nationals have injected misinformation and vitriol into the debate so early on. It would be terribly unfortunate for all Australians if the debate sinks into a nasty, eugenicist, 19th century style of debate about the superior race versus the inferior race. And I have to say I'm terribly disappointed that a Warlpiri person or a Celtic Warlpiri person has kicked this off.
As far as I can see, Jacinta Price, the nastiness is not coming from your side of the argument. The nastiness, particularly by Aboriginal people directed to you, is coming the other way.
Yeah, look, as I say, bullies like to project their insecurities and their failures onto others. Whatever it is they're accusing of others is, in fact, exactly what they're doing. Ms. Langton's the only individual using terminology like eugenics in the conversation. And again, it's just another way of another use of the, weaponising this debate and using the English language to attempt to paint those who don't agree with this proposal, and there are many Aboriginal people who don't, but as racist. It's that same, it's basically, it's emotional blackmail, it's gaslighting, and this is the technique that we're going to continue to see going forward. At no stage, even Paul Bongiorno, for the supposed professional journalist he is, can actually, they're attacking me as an individual as opposed to the issue and the debate, because they have nothing. There is no substance to the Uluru statement. There's no substance to this campaign to change the Constitution, to inject into our Constitution a bureaucracy that we can never get rid of. That's going to cost millions and millions of dollars on top of the hundreds of thousands of other bureaucracies that already exist that are being funneled millions of dollars.
Keep fighting, Jacinta. When they go low, you go high.
They won. Exactly.
Keep going. We'll speak to you soon.